Good evening, everyone. Buenas noches a todos. Welcome one time back to Lily Sin Barreras. I'm going to pull through because I have an amazing guest tonight. Before I tell you about our guest, I'm going to put this for many people that are trying to get together with us. I have her in what we could call our green room here on Lily Sin Barreras and my little tribe. Um, and I introduce, there's not many times on Lily Sin Barreras that we have someone, that I bring someone that is very close to me, that is part of my circle, my tribe, my friend circle, my sisterhood. That's not something I tend to do because I like the conversation to be organic and to be very generous with, maybe the difference of opinions and so on and so forth. But Professor Sarah Raskin is not only a professor, not only a mom and a sister and a friend to many, um, but also just a good human being on our earth. So her work is incredible. She's a professor at Trinity College, but the work that she does with so many different groups, but to me, she has become a good amiga, una hermanita, and I love to call her Sarita. As Puerto Ricanos, we got to give everybody a nickname, and that's when you know you're in. And definitely, she is here with us, and she's waiting to come up on screen. So I'll give you guys some time, and as I do that, I want to give you guys the opportunity to share your thoughts and your feelings about what's happening um, on the news right now. I want to also be very honest about what's happening with me right now. I just mentioned to Sarah, and we're doing this one in English because I got a couple of comments last time when we had Juanita Crispin saying, "I love that you're talking about mental health as you always do, and you include it in everything." But it was all in Spanish, and I couldn't follow. So this one is in English for all of you, my brothers and sisters. But I wanted to bring today this wonderful person that I know, and I've said this, I mention her name all the time. She's just good for the earth, for the world. And I mean this with the most sincerity. I'm very cautious, and anybody who knows me knows this, about who comes onto the podcast, who do we share time with, what are the voices that we hear. And she's also the person who introduced me to the Brain Injury Alliance, which I had no idea even existed. And I now sit on the board thanks to Professor Sarah Raskin. And I say all of these things to lay the groundwork. So we're going to speak to someone who is not a professor who's in the classroom and removed from the grassroots movement. Is all the opposite. I mean, all of us are trying to figure out how she attends all of these events and supports all of us. Like we all have, I think we all have all agreed that she has some type of magical ability to go to every event that is possible. So it's not a professor, and I mean this with respect, who's in the classroom and is not out in the community and doesn't feel the pulse and what's going really on in the grassroots community. She's always there with us. Um, in the happy moments and in those moments where we wonder what the hell is going on, like we are right now. I just said to Professor Sarah Eskin, I said, today is one of my depressed days. Today is one of those days where I'm very low. And so it's very important that she is with us today. So I will share this link, and we're going to do this on Facebook before we bring her on here. And here we are. So all of you feel free to share. And she is coming. She's coming. She's coming. She's coming. She's coming. And she's going to share the space with us. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, my love. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining me, which is makes me really excited getting you and getting her to agree that she should be on this podcast. I don't think it's because she doesn't like the podcast, all the opposite. I
Mhm.
think it's just she's like, what do you want me to say? And I thought, really? Like, do you want me? We'll be doing this for weeks. if you like. So, Sarah, could you tell people a little bit about that magical work that you do at Trinity? I don't know how you're going to summarize that, but good luck.
Uh, so I do teach some classes, and and it's really important to me that whenever I teach classes, that people like you come in so that students get to know what we're talking about. It's not in a textbook; it's real people. Um, and I also do research, and my research is on trying to find the best ways to help people who've had brain injury and are feeling like their memory isn't what it used to be, or their ability to pay attention isn't what it used to be. And so we work with them for a few months, trying to do some exercises to make it easier for them to remember things. And we try all different things and try to figure out what works best.
So, people like me.
Sure, people like you, lots of people, yeah. Hi, Mike Newman.
Yeah, us humans. Dear human. I wish we could write that love letter forever. So, Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about, as people join us, why is this work so important to you? Because as a neuropsychologist, you can go anywhere. I mean, this is a degree that, not only can you do research, but you write papers, you've written books. I mean, you introduced me to one of the books that I hold dear to my heart, which is, When the Body Keeps a Score and Grandmother's Hands. And so keeps it going on and on and on. Why this work?
So, I was in graduate school and I knew I was interested in learning more about the brain because I think the brain is really cool and fascinating. And I started working with a support group for folks with brain injury in New York City because I just thought I should learn more about what people's lives are like. And I fell in love with everybody in that group. I still have photos up on my wall. It's like it was such a great. We had such a great time together, and from then on, I thought these are the people I want to spend my career hanging out with because different groups are different, and people with brain injury tend to be younger and have struggles that I could understand, and we're open to getting help. And so then I said to my teachers in graduate school, I really like everything we're learning, but what I want to do is help people. I want to come up with ways to make people rehabilitate people. And they said, oh, that's impossible. You can't do that. So
Mm,
you know me well enough to know that if somebody says that's impossible, I'm going to spend the next 30 years trying to do it.
that's what we love.
That's where I am.
Sarah, I want to ask you a couple of questions about the brain. I think that unfortunately we don't know enough about the brain. We have people like you doing great work and many other scientists doing great work, but it's still not the work that we would like to see. And I think that as advocates, we always wonder where's the money and who's doing all of that work, and why is this thing that's so powerful. Do you remember when we met each other?
I
Because
do.
I cannot. Help me out.
We met on your show. We met. So, oh, how did we first meet? I don't know. I
Well,
just
tell
remember
people what I did to you because this scarred her forever.
we tried to meet at Panera, but we were at two different Paneras.
This is true.
And
Very
then,
Lydia.
and then you called me and said, I don't have time to meet you anymore because I have to do my show. Will you come be on my show? And I was like, what? Like I just met you. I'm like too shy. And you were like, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Come be on my show. I don't
And
know
it was
how
radio.
it was radio. I
Yes.
don't know how I first connected with you.
I don't either.
I'm so
I racked my
grateful.
brain all day thinking about it, but I
I think I
cannot.
just knew that you were famous and that you were someone, no, really, and that you were someone that I needed to connect with because you had so much to offer the folks I was working with, and that I just needed those worlds to come together.
That's I cannot remember the time we met. I remember having you. on the show and thinking, I can volunteer if you need a guinea pig.
Oh,
Juanita
please,
Cristin. Oh,
please, I
wait.
need
Oh,
that, please. I would love that. Wait, can I put information on
yes, please
how they
do.
can do
Please
that?
do. You
You
also
too,
have
please.
Saimar Cruz here. So you're going to have some really good people here.
Well, how do I write
Um,
something down to them?
you
Host.
can write it right in your comments where you
Yeah.
are. And so tell them a little bit more about how to do that. Hi, Juanita. How are you? Juanita is ah, special in our community at all levels. You guys can go and look at the podcast last week.
It-
Juanita was our guest and she blew us out of the water. People are still talking about it and thinking, ¿Cuándo viene para atrás? Regrésamela. People want her back.
Oh, I love her. But how do I did the host chat, but I don't think they can see it, right?
Okay, I'll post it for you if I get my hands on it. But there's Saimad also, TBI, as
I'm
well.
so grateful to anybody that's willing to work with us. It is so generous of you, and I would love to meet you and hang out, and that would be amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you.
Can you tell a people before we get into the meat of our conversation? But can you tell people a little bit of what they would be signing up for
Mhm.
so they can get an idea?
So we can do it over Zoom, but it's more fun to do it in person if you can come in person. I'm at Trinity College, which is in Hartford, kind of in Frog Hollow, South End area. Um, and so you would come and meet with me and some Trinity College students, some lovely, young, energetic people. Um, and we would do some tests first. So we would see how is your memory? How is your ability to pay attention? How is your ability to do things like problem solve and put things in a sequence? And then based on how you do on the test, we go, oh, your problem is X. Like you feel like it's a memory problem, but it's not. It's really an attention problem because if you can't pay attention, you can't get anything in your memory. Or we'll say it's not a remembering the past problem, it's a remembering what you have to do in the future problem. So based on the test, we'll figure out what we think the issue is. And then we'll sit down with you and we'll talk about what your goals are. What are your short term goals? What are your long term goals? We'll talk to you about how we think we can help you reach those goals. And then you'll come in for 6 or 8 weeks for an hour. We'll work on some just practicing things, like just paper and pencil stuff. Nothing scary, no medicines, nothing like that. And then we'll test you again and we'll say where you got better or where you didn't get better, and if you want to sign up for more. And because you would be being so generous to us, we do compensate you for your time. So we do give gift cards, um, usually to Amazon or Dunkin' Donuts or whatever. We compensate for time about $10 an hour. Well, the treatment we do at $20 an hour, and then we can also provide babysitting if you need it while you're in here. We have a room where we can have fun and keep your kids company and safe and happy. So yeah, so we're happy to make it as easy for you as possible because we're super grateful.
So Saimad says, me too.
Yay! Thank you so much.
So I can testify. I would trust you to Sarah Raskin. I would trust her with my brain. I trust her with my family. She's been to my house. She's wiped my tears, helped me understand a little bit more about what my world really is with, my brain injury, so on and so forth. Zero judgment. In the years that I've known Sarah, I've never felt judged. I've only felt loved. And that's a unique quality.
Well,
And
I
so,
love you.
oh, I love you so much, so much. Oh, God only knows. So this podcast is about your brain. How does your brain work? Sarah, tell us what are we doing with this thing? How does this thing work? I mean, short-term memory, long-term memory. I had ECTs, and people always ask me because of my brain injury. And I didn't know it was brain injury. To me, it was only depression and anxiety. You know my story. And people always say, "Oh my God, ECTs!" They were helpful to me, but I did lose some short-term memories. Some memories are gone. Some people host them, and I no longer have them. And and it's, you know, at the beginning is very sad, that you can't remember certain things, or get the life that you had. I think my life is better now. That sounds crazy. Better now in the sense that I have more love and compassion, and more tolerance with myself than I would have 15 years ago. So tell us a little bit about, how do you explain this brain? Because we all know we have one, and we all hear dementia, anxiety, depression, but how does this freaking thing work?
So you mean the brain itself, like, or cognitive
Yeah,
functions, or like mental health functions?
mental health functions, exactly. Like how does that all work for us?
So, um, well, first of all, your brain has parts, and different parts of it are better at doing certain jobs than other parts of it. It's like memory is this one part of your brain, like right above your ears. And the problem is it gets damaged really easy. So for two reasons, it gets damaged really easily. One is it's like kind of a thumb that sticks out, and the hard skull is right there. So if you go like this, that those little pieces that are against the hard skull are going to hit it, and so they get damaged really easily. And the other thing is that it's the part of the brain that needs the most oxygen. So if you're in a situation where you lose a little bit of oxygen, that's going to damage that part of the brain that you have memory for. And by the way, I just have to throw in that we know that this part of the brain is called the hippocampus is important for memory because of this amazing, amazing, amazing guy who was born and raised in Hartford, who went in for surgery at the Institute of Living, and they removed that part of his brain because they didn't know what it did. They were trying to treat his epilepsy, and he's who taught us that it was important for memory. And he spent the rest of his life doing research studies and helping us understand memory. So I'm just always so grateful to Henry Mollison from Hartford, who across the globe, he's the person that everybody thanks for helping us understand how memory works. So memory is there, and the way memory works is you pay attention, it goes into your memory, your short-term memory, and then if you repeat it over and over and over again, then it goes into your long-term memory. So you have like what you hear and see, and then a short-term memory, which is like think about oh, I need a better example. In the old days, I would always say, like, you want to call for a pizza, right? So you look
Mhm.
up the phone number, and it's in your head, and you dial it, and then you forget it, right? And so that's your short-term memory. It lasts a couple minutes, and if you don't need to remember it, it's gone forever.
Mhm.
But if you need to remember it, you move it over into your long-term memory. So like I said, when we're trying to figure out, somebody comes to us and says, my memory is not good and it's really causing me problems, we need to figure out which part of memory is it that's causing them problems. So parts of your brain do different things. Your frontal lobes also can get hurt in like an accident.
Mhm.
And so your frontal lobes are for problem solving, thinking creatively,
Mhm.
putting things in the right order, all that kind of stuff. Um, and so they also can get damaged. So that's another area of the brain that can get hurt. Wait, I want to see. Duncan sounds good. I'm in. Thank you, Louise. I'm always saying the Baby Beluga song to my sunshine since he was a baby. So long as he got older, to sing that song to me when I'm old to trigger the memories. You are not wasting your time. That is so amazing. That is absolutely such a smart thing to do. Music is so powerful. Music can bring back memories, it can bring back emotions, it can cure depression. Music is just so, 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 so powerful. I love that. I love you. I love that you're doing that. That is amazing. Baby Beluga, good song. Um, hi.
So you'll see all of people's comments. Sarah, talk to us. You have a very unique way of approaching depression and
Yeah.
anxiety. You're not, I would say, the traditional conversation that I have with people. I could say to you, like I just said off camera, I'm having a hard day. We lost a transgender student, a human being, a light, uh, a binary. I just, there's so many things. And my daughter and my granddaughter spoke for the first time yesterday. And I want to talk about mental health, and that's why I'm so glad Sarah's here. I feel so heavy hearted. I watched my granddaughter, speak for the first time in public, and she wanted to. I was on, but I could not let her go physically because I felt that January 6th was still present for me. And we were at the Capitol, and one would assume we're inside. There's police, there's this amazing community of activists there. And I was still holding on to my baby for dear life. And today I woke up so heavy hearted. People have called me, and she was so brave. But when she said, I have a family who loves me and supports me, I couldn't help but to hurt for the ones who didn't. Um, and so you have never been afraid when I talk to you about depression and anxiety. You don't deny it. Um, you're one of those scientists, if you will, that lives in the real world. And that people don't have to prove every emotion they have to you. Um, how does this happen to us? When you speak to someone like me or to others that say to you, I'm heavy hearted, I had a hard day, how do we take care of our brain? How do we do that?
I mean, I think the first step is what you're doing, which is accept it, live with it. I think we live in a culture where people are like, I have to pretend I'm happy. I have to pretend I feel good. I have to pretend just to be aware the way you are, to be able to say, I'm having a heavy-hearted day. And be aware, notice it. Notice, you don't want it to move into a dangerous space where you might hurt yourself or hurt somebody else, but to just be there and notice and think, this is why I'm heavy-hearted. I'm not going to be heavy-hearted forever. Um, this is teaching me a lesson. It's making me think about how much I love my granddaughter. It's making me think about where in the world we need to make change so that I don't have to be scared for my granddaughter or anybody else's granddaughter. Um, I think we try too hard to pretend these things aren't true. But I also think, we're an accumulation of everything we've been and everything we've done. So like in The Body Keeps the Score, what you're feeling today is an accumulation of who you are and everything you've been. And like you said, you think you're better after the brain injury. And I always tell people with brain injury, like, of course the brain injury changed because people are always mourning who they were before. And that's real. And giving people space to mourn is real. But you're affected by every single thing that happens to you in your life. Why wouldn't a brain injury change you? It's just a question of how it changes you and what you do with that. And so, if you get to a place where you say, I've sat in this space, I can't get out of it, then that's time to try to think about ways to get help. And sometimes that can be getting oxygen to your brain. It is amazing how much going for a walk, you and I have taken a lot of walks together. Going for a walk, moving your body, doing something that gives your brain a little extra oxygen can help. I always tell people, eat some protein every 2 hours. That can definitely help, just to keep your protein levels up. Social connection is another great thing that you can do to help. If there is somebody in your life that brings you joy or that is just okay with sitting with you in pain, reach out to that person. Music is a powerful healer. So, I mean, I think different people find different things, but we know for sure that exercise has an amazingly powerful effect. It just in the sunshine, being around trees and green space and anything outdoors, even if it's just to go to a park nearby, those things can also really, really help. And one of the things that happens with things like depression and anxiety is I talked about the parts of the brain, but our brain is also made up of cells, and those cells talk to each other through chemicals. And sometimes you were just born with chemicals that were too little or too much. Or you went through puberty and now you've got too much or too little. Just like you can have, high blood pressure or high cholesterol. You can have too little serotonin or too little dopamine. And then sometimes medicine helps or ECT helps. So there are also medical approaches, and sometimes medical approaches are getting rid of something like actually you have an urinary tract infection, and if we treat that, you'll actually feel better. Our brains are so connected to our guts and to our bodies and to everything else that the food you eat, whether you have a infection, whether you have a cold and you don't even realize it, that can affect our mood too. So I think we spend so much time in our heads forgetting that we have bodies. Me too, I'm guilty of this. And so I'll say, like, oh, I have a terrible headache, but sure, let's go ahead and do this.
Mhm.
Instead of saying, I have a terrible headache, and that's my body saying, I need to take care of myself. Like, I need to take a break and get some rest.
Sarah, you have said something that has stayed with me, and I wish maybe I would be the one to make the t-shirts. Um, you one day you said, "All I want my children." We were talking about children, and that has stayed with me. And I am very sentimental today, so deal with that, payball. Um, Emotional. Um, you said, I asked, I think we were talking about the conversation of what you want for your children. And you said, I just want them to be happy and to know that I love them.
That's it. That's all I ever wanted, for them to feel loved and to know that I love them.
That's it.
I love them. I love my babies. Yeah.
And everything else
Everything
is
else will work itself out. Because if they know that you love them, then you have an open line of communication. And if you have an open line of communication, then whatever it is, it can be worked out.
what I love is that you probably think that Sarah has two little ones running around and probably pigtails or
In
something
my
like that.
mind, yeah.
Well, me too. You, me too. But they're adults.
Yeah, they're in their 20s.
They're adults. And I think it's marvelous that you still have that for them. Now, as a professor and a neuropsychologist, and you have a lot of opportunities to work with students and other professors and community members, and you're connected to every community I know. I mean, everybody says, no, I'm being honest. Everybody says, call Sarah. Call Sarah. She'll know somebody somewhere. Call Sarah. You have
Call me.
become,
Everybody here, call me, call me.
yeah, call Sarah. Like literally, like call
Yeah,
Sarah. She
mean
knows
it.
somebody that knows somebody somewhere. Um, what what inspires you to do this work in the community? Because as a professor, you can do your work with your students in your lab and all of that fun stuff, and go home and you know, which would be okay too if that's what you chose. But you are in the community, like you are boots on the ground. I mean, you've helped me serve, pack. I had a tragic experience in my life, and you came running and said, "What can I do?" She gives the best gift baskets I've seen in my entire life. I'm like, cheese, thank you, chocolate, thank you. All of
Usually
these things are
chocolate,
so good for me. Lewis loves the chocolate. Um,
sometimes chicken soup, but mostly
and
cheese
chicken
and
soup, yeah, yeah.
chocolate.
I want the cheese. He wants the chocolate. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with you. He goes, I get the chocolate. That's the way it goes. Where does that come from?
Well, it's funny to talk to you about that. You give of yourself every moment of every day. And,
I'm
and,
not a
and
professor nor a
I know,
neuropsychologist.
and you really, you are there for the people that are the most marginalized in our society. You are there for the people that most folks that are like, yeah, I want to volunteer, I want to help out, wouldn't go where you go. And so I really honor that you are really, and not just, and you're not there just to serve, you're there to be a friend, you're there to be with them. I so admire everything that you do and the way that you do it and the respect that you have for every living being on this planet is just overwhelming. So I don't do anything compared to what you do. But
So
I do.
she is rolling with the question and trying to bat it back. But guess what? I'm smart at what I do, and I'm really good at what I do. And I'm very emotional today. So look at this script right here. What inspires you? Okay. What
Uh,
inspires you? I mean, you work with me, you collaborate with me in love in action, which is what I tell people all the time. Love is a verb, people. You're with me. You with Warren. You with Stephanie. You with every group that I can imagine. We can call on you. Where does that come from? Because you can't teach that, Sarah. I'm sorry. You just can't teach that. You can expose people to experiences and they'll get what they'll get, but yours is really in it to offer the people all of you. Where does that come from?
I mean, it feels good, right? I mean, it's selfish on some level because I get I get to meet people like you and Warren and Kamora. I get to spend my time with people like you. I get to spend my time with people doing amazing, amazing, amazing work. I mean, if if it feeds my soul. It makes me feel like I have a purpose, like I'm on this earth doing what little I can do. I mean, I think we all do what we can do, and I have a lot of privilege. And so that allows me to do more than folks who don't have that much privilege.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here we have a white woman who is not afraid to talk about her white privilege. When I first met Sarah, I have the blessing that I worked with so many people, and all these sisters took care of me, and I got, I mean, the honor, I should say, to work under the leadership of Ann Stamback. So I've had some really, really, Maria Serrano, Elsa Vueltas. So I never felt that difference because they always, but also my grandmother always told me, baby, nobody pees Pepsi Cola. So until they do, no reason to shine, right? No reason. All right, when they can when they can tell you that, baby, then we need to talk. So she thought, didn't matter. The other one was not everybody who dresses in a business suit is a lawyer. That was one of hers. It translates not as well, but it's funny. It's very funny in Spanish. So no todo el que se viste de chaqueta es abogado. Sarah, one of the things that I think it's really important for people to know is that you have chosen to work in this field. You're taking care of our brains. You talk to children. You talk to adolescents. You talk to adults. Um, you are part of the Brain Injury Alliance. You've been there forever. Now you brought me in. Now you're leaving me alone. So I'll fight with you later. Um, But let's talk a little bit about why is it so everywhere you go, you are really talking about the brain. Because how people feel, see themselves, are able to talk about depression. You're able to put that white privilege. Feel free to ask what white privilege is because Sarah had to explain it to me, believe it or not. If Kamora was here, she'd be like, oh, I'm driving to that girl's house. I'm going to beat her butt. But I had to understand that. Can you give us an example? There was a great example that you gave me, if you feel comfortable with that. Because I didn't understand what did you mean. Because I'm a light-skinned Puerto Rican. So I was like, okay, tú eres blanca, I'm light-skinned. They call me Blanca too, so whatever. Um, and so how do you use that white privilege that you have to help others and to be that person who says, wait a minute, I have something that I can use to benefit others.
Yeah, I mean, I can walk into a hospital and nobody's going to suspect that I'm going to ask for drugs. I can walk into a hospital and nobody's going to think, oh, she doesn't have a home. Let's get her out of here. She's going to be a problem. I can walk into a store and they're not going to follow me around and think that I'm going to steal something. And so I can walk into spaces, I can talk to people who will listen to me and give me more respect than I deserve. And so I can be an advocate for people that people aren't going to listen to. And I should just say too, you asked where it came from. A lot of people hark back to their cultures, and this is a difficult time. But I was raised by Jewish parents who were involved in the civil rights movement at a time when that was something a lot of folks did post World War II, and they really taught me that anybody can be persecuted at any time, and so we all have to be in this together.
Hmm. What do we need to learn, or what should we be working on if we want to be informed about our brains? Where do we start? Because I think so many of us know that we have this brain. For example, I always use myself. It was terrifying to me not to know how to get back home. Like I would leave my home and then go, crap, I can't remember. I remember having an episode. I was supposed to pick up my granddaughter at her school, which was never a problem before. I was totally blocked. The neon lights of some bodega, thank God they were there. That's all I could remember, the neon lights. And I couldn't use my phone. It didn't coordinate. Like use your phone. I couldn't really dial. I had my tablet next to me, so I was able to talk to my husband through Messenger, but I was not able to tell him where I was. Like I was somewhere in New Britain, like somewhere. Like I couldn't tell you a street. I couldn't tell you any of that. Somehow, and in my belief, the angels took care of me, and I got home. I lost control. I peed on myself. He had to like bathe me, take care of myself. Yes, people, I'm not afraid to say this. Take care of me. I don't know what happened to me, but I could not remember how to get back home. Like I really, so my body was responding to my level of trauma. What do we really, where do we start to learn about how to take care of our brains? Where do we start?
I mean, I could give you some books or some handouts, or I could send you some links on the internet. There's great information out there. Um, but everybody's different, and everybody has a different question they're asking. So for some people, it's about trauma. For some people, it's about dementia. For some people, it's about just, they've been using alcohol for a long time and it's affected their brain. Um, so our brains are complicated. We're complicated people.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a lot to learn. And there's also a lot, I give talks a lot to groups on kind of strategies for when you're in that situation, strategies for what to do if your memory is not there for you the way you want it to be.
So what do I do? Let's help people with that. Like I had no tools whatsoever. Like I like could not remember anything. I don't even know how I got home. Um, what tools can we use when something like that happens? Because I didn't feel anxiety at all. And I'm saying this openly to everybody. And if you ever feel this way, please ask someone for help. Um, please have numbers handy. And if you don't feel good with the clinical perspective, there's a lot of people that, although they're clinicians and although they're professors, understand the complexity of how your brain can work. Um, what what tools can we use? Because I didn't have any but prayer. Well, that was my tool, I guess. But what, what can we
I mean,
use?
in that situation, like that was a one-time thing, so you might not always, like it might just have to do what you did. But if it was something that happened to you a lot, then I would say, um, there's Find My Friend or Life 360 that Lewis could have on his phone so that he always knows where you are, so he never has to wonder where you are. I don't know if you want him to always know where you are. He's
Hell
going to
no.
be like, "What are you doing at Sarah's house?" But
Luis is my husband. For all of you who don't know who Luis is, he's my husband.
but so there are those programs. So for people that get lost a lot, we do recommend that. You could program things into your phone so that it's like one button and you get emergency, or one button and you get your doctor, or one button and you get your husband. Um, if getting lost is a thing for you, we also, we can program in a thing that always directs you back home from wherever you are. So there are those kinds of tools. If what you're, if you're forgetting to bring things with you when you're heading out in the morning, I always tell people, like, put it in front of the front door where you're going to trip over it. You can color code stuff. You can, I mean, again, I mean, I could talk for hours about this.
We're
So,
going to have you back.
yeah, I'm trying
Everybody
to,
knows your face now. You're in
yeah,
trouble.
trying to think about like where to focus in on for the next couple seconds. I mean, maybe, tell me another example.
Seconds. I have you for an hour. I'm sorry. I booked you
Oh,
for an hour.
we've been.
We have not. You have. It's been 40 minutes, but good try. I've been waiting for this forever.
Lydia knows
Um,
I'm very shy. So
she is very shy. It's so
yeah.
odd. It is so weird that somebody who has so much exposure with the community and in so many circles can be shy. Talk about breaking a myth. Sarah, can we dig in a little bit about my depression right now? I'm sitting with my feelings about what's taken place. I'm very hurt that as a community and people who have power to make changes either shy away from them or choose just to go, nah, that's not such a big deal. And we're losing children. This for me is a trigger, is a big trigger. How do we deal? And I'm in your office now, um, and I'm your patient now, if you will. I am really depressed. I'm really sad that these things are happening in our community. How do I work with my brain? I'm sitting with my feelings, but I have a therapist, I have a neurologist, I have a psychiatrist. Um, what else do I do? How do I utilize this pain, this discomfort to bring into community? You and I have very close loved ones to us. Mine is my grandchild, um, that are being affected by this level of hate and violence. Uh, What do we do? And I know there's not one short answer, but I'm looking for your sisterhood at this point.
I mean, I'm hearing two different things. So on the one hand, I'm hearing, so I'm happy to share with everyone that my younger child is non-binary and uses they them pronouns, looks very much like this young child who was just killed, not much older than this child who was just killed. Um, so this is very close to home and very difficult. And I made the mistake of trying to talk to them about it, and they were like, I can't even, you know. I think that, and you know this well, Lydia, I think that when people want a scapegoat, they turn to the absolute most vulnerable people. And so when you started with Ann Standback, that was gay and lesbian people, and now they've become more accepted, and so now it's trans people. And the question that we have to ask is, why do we live in a society in which we want to scapegoat anybody? Why do people feel so frightened and so worried about their own losing something of their own that they would harm another human being in order to feel powerful? I mean, that to me is really the question. And I think some of it comes from confusion and disorientation. And so I always say to my students, like, when you go home for Thanksgiving, you tell your uncle whatever, that biologically, physiologically, it is not true that there are two sexes. It is not true for humans. It is not true for other animals. It is not true that everybody is XX or XY. That is just not true. It's just
Scientifically.
scientifically. It's just the people that were XXY or XYY or XXX didn't want to tell you. They hid from you. They put a mask on. They covered themselves up. And just like people, they were always so one of the people we talked about, right, Lydia, yesterday was Alan Hart, who in 1917 had a hysterectomy because he knew he was a man and he wanted to live as a man. And so it isn't just in the last 5 years. It's just that people before had to hide, just the way gay people had to hide before them. And so they've become this vulnerable group that people feel they can be more powerful than. And sometimes, I love you, sweetie, but sometimes it comes from the church. Sometimes
I love you, sweetie. There's a joke in there, people. There's a joke in there. You
but
can tell people what the joke is.
but but it's just, we need to make people feel powerful without beating down other people, right? We need to find ways for everybody to feel powerful that doesn't require putting somebody else down, putting down women, putting down blacks, putting down Latinas, whatever it is. They're doing that because they don't feel powerful. And I don't know how we change society. What we do for you, I don't know either. We love you. You find people that love you. You know that what you're feeling is pain for your granddaughter. And you can't keep her safe. And you couldn't keep her safe under any circumstances. You've got to let her be out in the world.
Oh, her mama does a good job of letting her out in the world. If it was up to me, well,
I know.
there's a bubble and nobody could touch her, and so on and so forth. But Professor Raskin, tell us a little bit more how people. I know, I've exhausted your brain. I can tell in your face when I am
No.
done. You do a lot of work out in the community, and I want people to know also that you are a force of nature when it comes to advocating for those of us who have a brain injury. I remember when I first literally came out to you and said, I have a brain injury. And it was literally coming out because it's so hard for us who experience this kind of stuff to, you're always asking to validate it. You're always asking to look one way or another. Um, but domestic violence and child abuse and physical abuse is one that still we don't talk much about in the radar. The Brain Injury Alliance, y'all, I want you to know, is the only state agency that we have in the state of Connecticut that is dedicated to doing this kind of work, and they have an information or referral line, and Sarah has been very, very active in making sure, and in the alliance as well, and all the wonderful people, Bonnie and Julie, and we can go on, and Lori and everybody. And now we're working on, getting more outreach to the Spanish speaking community and communities of color. You have really inspired me to open up and talk more about my brain injury. I think a lot of people like me better when I talk about mental health. When I talk about the brain injury, they're just like, what the hell is that? And how can you get a brain injury later? How do they find that later on? And some people have injuries and they don't always show up in their test.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because they couldn't find mine. They weren't looking for it, but they couldn't find it either.
There's no test for it. I mean, certain kinds of brain injuries, you can see like a blood clot or something like that, but not everybody gets that. So it's really hard there's no test that proves one way or the other. But I'm glad that you brought up domestic violence, because that's something I've been really working on lately, is the fact that a lot of women get brain injuries as a result of domestic violence, but they don't know it. And they're focused on other things. They've got a broken arm, they've got a cut on their face. That's what they're focused on, or getting their babies safe. And so it never occurs to them to think that they might have had a brain injury. And they can get it from getting blows to the head or from being strangled, because remember, oxygen is important. And so I just want to make sure people are aware, if you know somebody or if you yourself has experienced domestic violence, that get checked out, go somewhere and get a screening and see if maybe that your brain was affected. I also want to do two more things. One
Please.
is to say to Juanita, reach out to me, because I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I think the tile is a really good idea. There's other things you can do. You can take a little voice recording where you say where you parked, or you can also take a photo of where your car was. A lot of people do that. So, but I'm happy to talk to you more. But also, Lydia, you said you're feeling really sad and then you keep moving off of it.
Mm, I am very sad. I am
Yeah.
very sad. I'm very sad because when I was at the Capitol with my granddaughter, I mean, just anybody who knows Maddie, if you don't know my Maddie Patty, she'll kill me. She's like, I can't believe she called me Patty. This child is taller than I am, and I held on to her. I remember January 6th, which for us, for me, and many other Puerto Ricans is Three Kings Day, so they messed that up for me as well. Um, so we will always remember January 6th, not the way that we used to. There's two things that happen in January 6th for us now. And I was looking around and very attentive to the Capitol Police to make sure that they weren't looking at each other in any which way that led me to believe that we were in danger, because this was a vulnerable a moment for many, many, many people, many people, and it's such a beautiful community. It's such an honor to be in spaces where people love each other. And we have people from all walks of life, including me and my granddaughter. And I was there as a grandmother. The activist in me is always present. I can't separate those two, but there I was as a grandmother. When my granddaughter decided that she was going to speak, Sarah, I was almost terrified, because I said to her, I said, baby, those cameras that are in front of you, I have no control of. Those are live, those are feeds. I have no control of that whatsoever. Are you sure? I didn't want to take away her desire to speak out, and to feel comfortable doing that. I just wanted her to know that I had no control, that there was no way I could protect how the media was going to see her, what they would take away from her speech. Um, and she just looked at me and said, Nani, I want to do this. This is wrong.
So brave.
And I thought, this is my 17-year-old, but this is my baby. You know what I mean? Like, we have a very close relationship. And we walked out of the Capitol and everybody's hugging. I mean, it's so beautiful to see people who don't know each other, like in the personal, intimate way, but we shared this horrible pain. And we could hug each other. There was one person who spoke transgender, and a woman and she spoke, and her name was Lisa, and I just wanted to hug her, and I said, can I hug you? And she said, of course. And I got the best hug in the world, because I just felt that there was so much that we had to say. Of course, Kimora killed it. We know our Kimora Harrington. She killed it, and it's painful that she has to do the work that she's doing, right? And there's so many other activists that were there. But the entire time, I was thinking about, what life am I leaving for my grandbaby?
Sounds like you've empowered her to be brave and speak
Her
her
mama
truth
has.
and not be afraid. That's what you're leaving her. You're leaving her the ability to withstand whatever the world brings on. Bring it on. She's ready.
When you speak about, I speak about churches and religious groups and all this kind of stuff, I'm a believer. I believe that there's a higher power. Um, and Lord, I believe I'm going to take the train, or whatever the plane is, or whatever it is. Um, but I want to be very clear that all of us don't have to believe the same thing, and that's okay. We have many friends from many walks of life, and many um, thinking path. But Sarah, if I could say publicly, I know that we don't share the same belief, but if you are not an image of what God created, I don't know who it is. Your kindness, your love, your dedication, your unwillingness and tireless work You nobody's paying you for the kind of work that you are doing. You're calling, checking up on us. Um, those who, even before I was on the board, you would call up and check up on me. You used to run a support group, and you would invite me to the support group on brain injury. So I publicly would like everybody to know that this woman has become a part of my family. She's a sister, and I love her. And I wish that, I would run towards her. And I wish that, she has this title. She's a neuropsychologist. There's so much. She's a Jewish woman. I remember calling her because she's also in the middle of Trinity College, where there's Palestinian um, young, young, young um, adults or children or whatever it is that the political language is. But she is also Jewish, and I was really concerned about how she was dealing with all of that, and I wanted to send her my love. And sometimes, Sarah, I don't know about you, but sometimes we don't need a long conversation. We just need to know that people are there and thinking of you and loving on you, even when you're not physically in the same space. And I think you do that for me day in and day out. And I'm so grateful. I mean, it didn't matter how small or how big I saw my initiatives, you always saw them bigger than what I can see them. We actually were this same day. This happened all in the same day yesterday. I was part of a very privileged moment, I think, an honor to speak about people who have actually in, the African American community or trailblazers in the city of Hartford. And one of them was Evan Harold Daniels Jr. And she said, do you know Evan Harold Daniels Jr.? And she said, no. I said, you know CHS? And, she could deal with all my freaky, like, and she said, yes, of course. I said, my daddy, my daddy was the founder of that, my godfather. And she remembered that. That was a long time ago, Sarah. And we have a favorite place that we go to have lunch at Ben Chips. I have the Ben Chips. She's better than I am. Um, and she said, aren't you connected to this particular person? And I said, absolutely. And she gave me the opportunity to speak on me, speak on the amazing things that my godfather has done. Sarah, there is no, we want you to come back. Come back with that brain, that thing that scares
Will
me.
you tell them how to reach me?
Absolutely. I will post it for everybody. If you had uh, something that you wanted to share with our community right now who's watching us, what would it be? What would be your message today for them?
Take care of your brains and, you know, wear a helmet, read a book or a pamphlet or a magazine, tell somebody that you love them, find somebody that you love to be with and spend time with, listen to music, keep watching Lydia's show because you'll learn a lot of great stuff. And if you have any questions about anything, to call me.
I will definitely post everything for you guys. I love you, Sarah. Stay around, people, so you can take your $50 home. I'm gonna let you go because I know people are waiting for you. I know you came out of an event yourself. So I love you to pieces. You all stay with me. Thank you. We're gonna have you back. Everybody remember her face, so we'll put some peer pressure on her, which is not good for anybody's mental health, but we're gonna use it anyway. Thank you, Sarah. I love you.
I love you.
So, for all of you, as she signs off, tell me what you thought about our conversation with Sarah. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do. Do you want to hear more about neuropsychologists like Sarah? We're soon to bring up Dr. Margaret Hungerford, who is the author of Hidden Depression, who has a very well known podcast of Hidden Depression, who's had a TED Talk that blew up. She's been on our podcast before. So tell me, is there something in particular that you found interesting or would like to dig into more about this conversation. We did this one in English because so many times, yo soy boricua pa que tú lo sepas. Um, we do a lot of Spanish, and some people will say to me, can you do one in English so I can understand everything that's going on? And that's that's Sarah Raskin for you. Um, I want to let you all know that it's okay to sit with your emotions. Um, it's okay to say I don't feel well. It's okay. Um, this is the face of depression. Okay, so today has been, hi Juanita, I love it. I love you too, mija. You take $50 home. Tell me what you liked. I want to know from you what you liked. But I do want to mention a couple of people to you, uh, and an issue that I'd like to talk about more with you. And this is this mental health that we shy away so much about talking about mental health. Who is doing well, who's not doing so well, what skills, what tools that we use, when do we use them, why do we use them, what works for who. Um, the next topic Saimal wants to have is on TBI. Those are traumatic brain injuries, for those of you who don't know, and domestic violence. So my injury was due to child violence. And it took many, many years for them to find it. And it was very impactful, and not the best way for my family. And nobody knew what to do. So there'll be videos, and look out for our channel, subscribed. We need it. We haven't even made it to 500. And we need every subscription possible because it allows me to be me. Um, like the slur, like sometimes I'll stutter. I speak for a living. Um, have hard days, the things that we have to do. So, Simon, I guess you're the winner. These are the things you want. We have great people in our communities. We have to be able to stay safe, to love one another. But if I could dedicate the show to someone, this podcast, daughter. Well, yesterday I will post. We went over this yesterday. She's like, "Yes, Nani, I want you to post it. Yes, Nani, I want you to post it." And so I just want to talk to her mama for a minute, maybe tomorrow. Um, oh, I love this. Maybe do more mental health in the male community. Yes, Juanita. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I've worked in that area for many years, and lots of our brothers talk about this all the time and the stigma that they go through. And when I worked in fatherhood initiatives and going into our incarceration facilities, we did a lot of work with men and their understanding of mental health, or their own lack of understanding of mental health, and they thought they were broken. So Sammy, you're the winner for tonight. You take home the $50. I love you guys so much. The energy that you see from me is sad energy, and I'll get through it with with my faith and with love and all of your support. Please check in with one another. Please love your teachers. Go into the school, ask your superintendents what are they doing to keep your kids safe. Talk to your principals, talk to your politicians, talk to anybody you need to talk about. And soon I will see you. Watch out for El Café con Lily and many other surprises that we have coming up. I have already been told that, and I'll say this to you guys,